The only thing
it takes 2 weeks back to 6 months.
I may leave you abruptly. I have to well, it's I have backup. This is a conference we do every single year in Hofstra. Oh, thank you. It's for I did go to the planning and zoning board. Their mandate is 4 hours of continuing education. So if they don't, their votes are not invalidated. But it is, because that would be unfair to the public, you know what I mean? But they throw off the meetings, they will not be responsible.
No. You behave yourself.
I can't make that whole. But did you see me turn around? He's a volunteer. Because that was just so rude. So I just always do that. So I think I'm going to run over there and I'm going to take us here to go ahead.
From 0 to hero?
Okay.
He's waiting for his bar and you know, I just was talking to my best friend's daughter. She graduated from Temple and she took a job with the Philadelphia University. But they never. I watch a lot of basketball. You can't start until you get your results. And if you fail, you send it. What did you get?
Wow.
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it. They're coming. No, we would never. I have never heard of that.
Almost never done that.
My very first job, they would not hire you until you took test. But that's fair enough, you know what I mean? We're ready to go.
They're in the building.
I've never had that. Let me just update you.
I got a few back here, I got a few over here.
I got it. But they gave me 3. Yeah.
Oh, get out of here.
Oh, I feel so good. You know, hey, I was like, your office is a little off my
Very independent. Very strong-willed.
So we talk.
That's right.
They'll pull you back in. Get him a GPS.
Oh, God. But he said no more Jerry, so.
You got a brother.
Hey, so I texted Christy because Mark was like, hey, see how they're doing over there? I was like, hey, Mark wants to over there for like an update. She goes, good, thanks. No, she wants an update. This is still literal.
Push you. Her son. He's a drawing. And I want to tell you something. My wife was at this marriage center. This was
Yeah.
oh, I know what it is.
Well, I don't think it's. You don't have to ask me. It's like. Just yeah. It should be it. I just did it. I'm gonna take a check.
No, it was just totally shocked. Because it was always, girls. I said, it's gonna be girls. I'm very fortunate.
So she texted me, good, everything's good here, and then she walks in.
Stay with Kristen. Robert, you know what I'm gonna do actually? You know what? I'm gonna give you my stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, this is for you, and you'll update it. Legislative crime, it was lovely to see you. See you soon. Have a nice day. This is a conference, oh my God. The first 2 hours are affordable housing, and the second 2 hours we do best practices. And we're doing a mock hearing tonight of a change of zone, yeah. I've been doing it.
You said it's good, I'm like, wait, why
I'm on the
just
road.
put this where?
Okay.
What?
Put it on my desk, but I like when you updated it like you did, you know.
Oh, all I do is just put it to when the next one comes.
And I have what I need tonight.
Alright, so
I'm not even
once
gonna go to
Christie gives
the
me the
office.
next ordinance, I'll just do the same thing.
Thank you. Bye-bye, thank you. This is all pizza.
I saw Jerry
Yeah,
coming in.
we're right in the process.
Support was always strong. In all of our, you know, and you know,
Yeah, but it's wrong.
you win, Mike. He's doing it officially. He really is doing well. Slow up the sugar, and that is the most stressful
I had one from my auntie, and I gave it to my sister.
No, no. I literally thought you were. She was like,
No, you're completely
River is red, like purpley red.
arguing that it was fuchsia. I was arguing that it was cranberry, but it feels like
Yeah, it's deep red, purpley red. Yeah. Oh no. It has like a yeah, it's a purple. There we go. Yeah, there it is. You don't know what a glimmer is. It has little Merlot. A Merlot seed.
you were
It depends
saying
on the ripening.
fuchsia, which is how I feel like I have the Google search to
Wait, did you hear that Jerry's donating fuchsia hotcake pie?
About 25 and not be impacted by that.
Hi, it's Laura.
I wanted to buy mine.
Great, how are you doing?
And they would go away.
What about Thursday?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, is this what's going on?
Okay.
Something going on.
So like 30. They've never seen it before. Bye-bye.
See, you nailed it. I know. I didn't realize that we were out. Oh, yeah. What? No. Did we do items? We didn't do items?
Sleep until
Oh, yeah.
in the right range, and then, then he does them again. Most of the time it was fine after the first go round.
We got Steve, all right, 1, 2,
Yeah, thanks.
just need one more.
I just want to go some.
No, she's inside, I was gonna say, like I said, Steve. Where was Lisa?
You know why? Because I should really have it.
There you are.
I didn't see any. Yes, everyone's seen it.
We've been seeing it.
Ever? It's a great movie. It's, yeah.
So funny.
Elle Woods. Yeah, everyone. Everybody loves that movie. Yeah. Yes, and the pink. It's basically Christy.
But there's like one scene though where she has like a smoker's jacket and a tie and glasses and I feel like the purple jacket.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah. You would, because at least she's wearing it.
yeah.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Bob.
Oh, it's such a good
When you
movie.
want to feel good, that's what I said.
All right.
Going up. Robert. Very nice meeting you. We'll be hanging around.
Yes. He's volunteering with their office. So this is his first time.
It's fun. Yeah.
But it's even funner to paint this up.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty.
Yeah, you gotta get your hands dirty.
She's gonna say,
Oh, everyone's yelling at me.
well, Jerry, does he have everything he needs?
No. You haven't followed, you haven't followed the,
No, I have all of them.
pretty much stairs.
Three separate?
No. One on the book.
He says he's got.
Stairs get processed and filed.
He wears a powder badge. Yes. Yes. And he's packing things that are being everywhere. Luxury, by the way. He doesn't say it, but he didn't tell you that he has 2 reclining chairs and massaging chair.
Okay, so
an electric fireplace
that's
and the TV.
You must have thought that you knew your mother made this thing stuff.
And the TV comes out of the fireplace. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Back, very nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Bye.
I'll be back.
Okay. He doesn't say it.
Well, when the team comes out of the fireplace and they have
Yeah, it's like the shower only gets to his face though because he's too tall. Yes. I know. There's a bunch of yeah, he's doing this as well.
Kevin Walsh just hired me, and I'm really tall too. And when I was interviewing,
You see a bunch of monsters you walk around the office.
in an interview, you're just sitting there, always like 7 foot tall.
Yeah,
they'll stand around you while you're.
Well, I didn't interview at church. I interviewed with Judge Ross and young guy.
I know, well, you know, that's what
And I
it's.
started walking. Yeah, oh no, it was just all. Yeah, and I was walking
I'm not even expecting it. I mean, all of a sudden, it and mess up about you.
Cameras rolling, the lights are.
Yeah, you're not stressed enough, right?
By the way,
Andrew? Yes.
Thanks for doing that. But it's really, it's important.
yeah, they got cards now. Big stuff over there. See, I'm trying to get better at it. Yeah. They have marathon behind there.
Oh, yeah.
They have, you know, they walk them around the preserve and let them, you know, the side of the road to like clear, because they're good at clearing stuff.
Nobody knows it.
Yeah, no one knows it. My mom saw the other day. It's like a parade of goats.
They just like,
Yeah, I was like, I want these goats. It's amazing.
it's the best.
Yeah, no, that's
You've heard
goats.
How many goats? Like, best job ever.
That's all my girlfriend. It's a cruel animal. You can't have pigs. You think Merritt Freeport you can have pigs?
I feel like you can.
I don't.
I feel like you can. I mean, you're the lawyer. You tell me.
Yeah, no, I'll have to look up the law.
Yeah. Because the chicken.
And the chicken coop is the
I've heard
thing.
people love chicken.
But that might also be illegal.
No, I'm not saying that.
It's past work time. Oh, 4:45.
7 o'clock.
Just crying. Is that a public comment? They legislate this. Yeah, yeah. They legislate this. There's only the emergency stuff.
I can't, I'm telling
Middies? They just started pitching it up. Really? When I started working, 5 o'clock. And I wanted to be the late guy, so I was like, yeah, and then like, no, you can't, because at 5 o'clock, you're like, well, everyone's gone, right? Yeah, no one else to do.
So everyone heard that, right? The second and the
No one cares.
20th.
Over in my office, in the office.
Second is we're already here for the committees, and then the 20th,
Yeah.
we'll be here as well. And the 20th for our budget. Wait, October 2nd? October 2nd, we're here for the committees, but they're also scheduling the budget. Plan it to be like a long afternoon.
A lot of people just say.
The 16th, right, is roll edge, and then the 20th, which is Friday, will be a budget hearing.
Bye.
Nice to meet you too. They didn't give me a time, but usually they make them at 1 o'clock
Where you go to school?
when it's not.
St. John's.
Yeah.
And you working? That's crazy.
Like fresh work.
Yeah. No, but you have like.
And then the 30th, so it's always a pack.
What do they have?
So like, well, there's another guy, Bob. But they're like, he does all he does. Like graphic, so like, or they are the responsible. We'll send it to me, Christy, and this guy named for lunch. And then the new guy takes on
I didn't really want to be away for, doing the campaign, but it's the big five.
Like you said, showing your hard work.
You gotta be careful. People will just throw it at you.
No, I volunteered.
Just be careful. When they're, when their departments, not wait for days, they ask for questions, you give them an answer. That's what you should be doing. If it's other departments asking you to do stuff, I'm the FOIL officer for
Yeah, thank you.
the office.
Yeah. How about that?
I do this from my bureau. If you have a question, Other than that, you should think
Yeah, that's my bad.
The letter I sent you to respond to, it's done. You don't get that.
Right, yeah. Appeals, so you're like actually writing.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I see you.
It's a lot of things.
Yeah. I'm not but not that much.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just.
No, don't worry.
Until we go.
So what year?
You're hired or you're yeah. What year am I? Actually, just volunteering. I'm waiting for our results. Like,
Back in my customer.
The world is right again.
I always say that. All right.
say again? Oh, yeah.
Somebody got a 30 and
Well, you can.
That's sad. Cause I know.
No, there's 6 items. 6 items.
He has like straight hair for.
Yeah, I think I saw it.
Oh, you saw Andy.
I thought we were doing
You saw Andy with that animal. Okay.
There's some other old,
Take more
like,
time.
older guy
So we're
who
doing
went to
it.
the office today and just threw that.
Yeah, he's got some. Say bye.
Chuck sparkles in blood.
And what do I always say about that? Make sure when you say on the sides. There's a lot of stuff going on.
I've been doing every night.
A lot of nonsense.
Josh.
Yeah, I wish it was.
See, now these little pizza. Everyone would like them.
Beer and pizza.
They have.
What? No, but nobody likes pizza.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
You deserve the whole
That's what you get for working here for 30 years.
You know what though? That should have been the suggestion. So right there, if there were anything we could do, she said turn into pizza pie. Pizza.
Or beer.
Actually, one time, Fran bought a pizza, told people that was there. Everybody but me.
Take it all.
Oh man, we went to an house trip, get back. You had pizza, it was gone. You couldn't get rid of other food as easily as pizza though. Yeah. One time we made a cake that was had textbooks, and I put the remainder of that. Thanks a conversation. Yeah, and it's, no one really ate it. No, because you pizza.
We're having.
4 of them, 6 items.
Oh my god, everyone wanted to go to
No, it was Chewbacca's.
Cool.
my sister saw
Who was
it
that?
in Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Very professional.
It's September. Right. Oktoberfest now.
My sister went to actual Oktoberfest in Germany, and she bought the actual outfit there.
I would see you.
I heard.
Oh, God.
Yay!
I actually.
Wow, Jerry.
Once 30 years ago.
You dress up. doing it all wrong. Okay, let me get up for this. Stick out.
That's awesome.
Everyone's bringing a boot.
I was in your age. I used to have
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool.
I like that one.
But they have the longest zip line in America.
Really?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Yes.
So I was there with my college drinking buddies. And they said, you know, we're real
Yeah.
we have to go.
So that means we're ready to go?
Yes, dear.
Congratulations, I can get.
It very much.
Very much.
But let me tell you what the most popular song is.
Yeah, Myra,
There's something like 16 years old. And everyone has a thing of all different types of things. Rock.
You can walk in the event.
John Denver's taking country roads.
Really?
And every one of them. And they'll play it in whatever the style is. And I was there with my ex, and they all know the words to the verses to not the bridge.
Okay, yeah,
So when we got to the bridge, she and I started belting. All German. It was fun. It really was fun. And you know what white beer is? Wheat beer?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. It's a kind of a cloudy beer with meat. And it's served in Coca-Cola. And the only place I did the last time, they held these merry-go-rounds. And they put tables on it, and they served the white beer on it. And they were really go-rounds.
Oh my God. Oh my Jesus.
But the thing is that something there. There's people hanging on the side of this film. They're really not.
That's awesome. They make homogeneous blue moon liquids.
It's not the Belgian one.
Oh, wow.
All right.
That's
Ready to go.
Those beers are really, you can go back
Oh Lord. Oh, he's got the track.
Lederhosen.
You dress like the tall guy, and I'll be the shirt one.
I was gonna say that's about appropriate.
That is the proportion. That is the proportion.
They do the
Yeah, yeah. That's nuts.
Okay, so we'll be entertainment too.
it's also, you know what? All the lines. You know, all fries, the shooting gallery, there's the stands that sell shops, beer cans, and it all closes down to like the states of health and all things. It's great.
I just wish that she got.
You got any bratwurst?
What are you talking about?
6 items, six
There's
categories.
one place where they have the entire cast and on sticks. And they're churning and they're roasting it over and stuff like that. You go and you buy it.
Yeah, I didn't know.
No, just go. Just drug yourself up and go. Yeah.
Because I don't have a business.
It's not as bad as it looks.
Actually, going to be a treat tonight. The third time I was there, the ex was on vacation. So I went with her. And I had this great book. I got so sick of here. I was fucking sure.
Is that what they do? Yeah, I like that.
No, I. Oh, all right.
Madam Chair.
Please, it was in good faith.
Very amenable.
So you do 1, 2, and 3.
Well, let me just make sure, Carrie and, ready to rock and roll, Madam Chair.
Not like that.
You want to tell us about any meetings you have? Oh, this one
No, you're probably one of the. Yeah, you're right. Just graduated, right?
Okay, so this is now back in session, and we have 6 emergency items, and I'm going to try to expedite as much as I can. However, there are 4 emergencies. Emergency 14 that has 3 items. Then there's emergency 15 that has 1 item. Emergency 16 has 1 item. And emergency 17 that has 1 item. So I'm going to write down, the first emergency is item 364, which is part of emergency 14, 365, and 366. All right. The emergency 15 is 371. The emergency 16 is 372. And the emergency item 17 is item 373. Motion to establish.
So moved.
Who did that? Moved by legislator Rhodes, second by legislator Nicolau. All those in favor of establishing the emergencies for these items, signify by saying aye.
Hold on, we have to ask questions.
Yeah, no, we're establishing the emergency.
Before he gives you the emergency, let's ask questions.
Okay.
17?
Establish it.
Before we establish,
Okay, what do you want to do?
before we establish, let's ask questions.
Go ahead. We didn't vote on the establishing the emergency? Okay, but the motion is made, right? Okay, you will vote on it. So we vote for you, and then we'll get it.
So,
Was that-
You didn't vote on it. You made the
Okay,
motion.
go ahead.
You opposed. But you didn't vote on it.
We didn't vote on it.
All right, so no, we did not vote on it.
Right.
So, one thing, and then I'm gonna pass the floor to the legislators, Szilagyi, Birnbaum, and Drucker.
Minority Leader, are we questioning, I'm sorry, are we questioning the reason for the emergency or on the items themselves?
Yeah, it's both.
Related.
It's related.
Oh, it's-
But the first thing is, I was under the impression that we were gonna call all three emergencies all at the same time. One emergency for all the school districts.
If I may,
Jerry.
later, the way that we were informed to do this earlier in the day was to do it separately, and that's the way we filed it. There's no particular reason. You could consider them all at once. It's just that the original way was to do it as separate items. Now we have it all together.
Okay, keep going.
So, Norma, are you okay with what Jerry was saying? Can we just call them all together?
I thought you did call them all together.
I think, I thought that was the case too.
We did 371, 2, and 3?
No, I said she went.
Called all of them.
Called all three.
Oh, she did?
Emergency for
I didn't
all
think so.
6 items. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Polzak?
Yes.
One emergency for all 6 items?
Well, no, there's 4 separate documents which you could vote on as, take one vote on, which was my understanding from.
Okay, we already put all things.
Right, she has also.
Emergency
called-
14, 15, 16, and 17. That's 4.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what we did.
Right.
No, I guess what I'm driving at, Norma, is that we're gonna take a vote on all 4 at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's fine. So then I will. hand- No,
Okay, we
we don't
established
want.
the emergency.
Yes, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, Ellen,
No,
no.
ask it before.
Come on, ask
Ask
your
your questions
question.
first, ask your question first. Ellen's gonna ask.
Go ahead, legislative by.
Okay, fine, thank you. Could you explain why we have these items as emergencies?
What?
Why do they come to us today as emergencies?
I think I can handle that one. They're coming on today because by law, the school taxes have to have the warrant issued by the 4th Monday in September. My understanding from assessment is that the information they have they need in order to submit the ordinances to the legislature, they don't get until the very end of September. I understand that one school district did not come through until last Wednesday, which is why it all has to be brought on as an emergency at this point. And to put it all in perspective, I don't have the institutional knowledge, but the people I've spoken to about it say that we have done it this way for the last 30-some-odd years.
And that is why I'm questioning it, because if we do it each year like this, why can't we make it so that we get the information in the proper timing?
We are at the mercy of the school district.
And according to the certificate filed by the assessor certifying that these were received and filed, it bears a date of September 11th.
Okay, that's news to me. I was told that that last Wednesday was the day, and I don't think that was the way.
That's in the ordinance, that it has to be filed, it was filed in the office, the assessor of the county, and that's what bears the date, September 11th.
Deputy County Attorney Robert Marin Jr. That is the date that the assessed value was filed. Again, the school board or the school districts provide their budget as they pass them. There is no date requirement to get them to us. The only requirement, quite frankly, is on this body to pass it by today. We are at the mercy of the school districts.
Well, the way it's been pointed out to me that the ad code requires the assessor to file it and extend it to the 10th day preceding the 4th Monday.
Okay, and with respect, and I don't have the
15th,
institutional
September
knowledge.
15th.
Well, I don't have the institutional knowledge, but as Jerry said, it's been done this way for 40 years, and the error that you're, if you want to call it that, is ministerial at best. Additionally, quite frankly, the rules that this body is beholden to in this realm is antiquated and just non-functioning because of being at the mercy of the school district, not through fault of anyone within the county. It's never going to happen. You have to pass the tax levy by today, and one school board didn't give us the information until Wednesday. So what do? Again, it's a ministerial error. It doesn't affect anyone. Quite frankly, with all due respect, it's a pass-through because you have the ability to vote yes or vote no, but you don't have the ability to change it. The school board has that ability.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but according to the administrative code, it has dates set out, and we're not adhering to them. And nor are we following the code of the county by having an acting assessor doing this, who's not an assessor, qualified by the code itself with his qualifications to be the assessor. Is there somebody from the assessment office here?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not from the Department of Assessment. I'm the counsel for the Department of Assessment, but there is somebody from the Department of Assessment sitting behind me.
Perhaps we should amend the code if we're every year for 40 years we're doing it the wrong way.
I can't speak to that. I'm not up there. I'm but the humble civil servant.
Well, I think maybe if we had an assessor who followed the code, we might be better off than doing it every year by an emergency. And not filing the certificate by the proper date. I mean, I think I have a copy of the certificate, and no, we don't have a copy of the certificate, so I don't know what the certificate looks like, actually. If it has the proper information on it. I don't know, the question is, are we doing it properly? Are they accurate? Or, I mean, are we following the code of our county by doing it this way? I mean, I guess it's a rhetorical question at this point. All right. There's no answer.
If I might, I mean, I'll try to answer a rhetorical question as best I know. And it's been done this way under Republican assessors, under Democratic assessors. That doesn't make it right. But the fact that I understand is as follows. We have to do it by a certain date by law. The school districts don't necessarily have to give us the information far enough in advance to meet that deadline, but for meeting the deadline with an emergency. If there was a way that we could force the school districts to give us that information early, I think we would.
But how many school districts were we waiting for?
Just a couple, because they're on, as I understand it, they straddle the Nassau-Suffolk line.
Legislator Muscarelli, just one quick comment on that. You know, as an attorney, we're being asked to approve an ordinance that says we are doing it in accordance with provisions section 6.21 and 6.22 of the code, which we're not. So we have an ethical obligation to pass things that are truthful. So saying that we're passing this ordinance, which is in accordance with the provisions of the code, is inaccurate and not true.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. However, vote against it And if we all vote against it, our school districts can't get funded, so that's
Understood,
fine.
but I just understand the dichotomy here.
Absolutely.
And as an attorney, I have an ethical problem when I'm being asked to sign off on things that are not truthful.
And the best way that we address it is by doing it by an emergency.
That doesn't legitimize it.
I'm not justifying it, I'm just trying to explain it.
Can I just ask one other question? Can I ask a question, please, Madam Presiding Officer? If there's a distinction between the warrant for the school taxes, obviously, and the consolidated taxes, isn't that correct?
Could you, my name is Jeff Sastra from the assessment unit. Could you repeat the question again?
Sure. There is obviously, would you agree that there is a distinction between warrants that are issued for the school taxes and warrants that are issued for the consolidated taxes, which is ordinance, which is the resolution 364?
Okay.
So would you agree that there's a distinction between those two type of warrants?
Well, what is your point?
I just asked you the question, is there a distinction between those two type of warrants?
In other words, the schools, in other words, have the warrants, okay, we file warrants, which you have the numbers in front of you. And I don't know what the significance of the question is.
The purpose of the question is because
the school numbers should be right in front of you.
right, but the purpose of the question then is to elucidate the fact that the consolidated taxes, you have the county, you have the cities, and you have the towns that haven't fixed their budgets yet. We don't know what those numbers are yet, like we do have most of the school tax information. We certainly don't have the consolidated tax information from the various municipalities. So my point is, isn't it putting the cart before the horse, though, to issue warrants before you even have any numbers? At least with the school taxes, you have most of the numbers.
Well, the schools, we have the numbers. At the end of the year, you don't have the warrants naturally for the county, town, special districts.
But yeah, we're asking.
That's the way that it's always worked each year.
Yeah. That seems to be the common refrain, though, the way it's done every year, but we're being asked to issue warrants on numbers we don't have yet.
But again, you have to remember, again, you have to assess the taxes with general taxes now. In other words, the general tax, the assessed values can't be different for the school and for the general taxes.
But there are other types of tax, the consolidated taxes is a distinction under the code.
Well, as I said, the general warrants are going to be issued at the end of the year. They always have been, always will be.
Yeah, it's going out tomorrow afternoon, though.
Well, we're talking fiscal year school now.
I'm talking about consolidated taxes.
As I said, general warrants are going to be issued at the end of the year. That's my answer.
But the item says it's going.
That's the way it's always been.
The item says it's going out tomorrow. Consolidated warrants. So it's going out tomorrow.
I don't see, in other words, where it says consolidated anyway.
364.17, the first
Okay.
one.
Okay, we're here to talk about the school taxes, the warrants.
Yeah, but the first item is a resolution to talk about the consolidated taxes. That's a different item.
As I told you, the general warrants are going to be issued at the end of the year.
Okay, but we're going.
Legislative Director, I'm
Yes.
told that that part of the reason that the consolidated warrants go is because the school and the consolidated have to match the assessed value, am I right?
Correct.
The assessed valuations, the assessed valuation has to match.
Right.
You know, for the schools and for the consolidated, they have to match.
No, I understood that, Fran, but the warrants and the assessments are two different things. warrants and assessments are two different things.
Yeah, but the warrants are based on the assessed valuation, are they not?
But yeah, but you're putting the cart before the horse, you're issuing.
Well, once again, the problem here right now is that we don't get the information early enough from the school district. As a legislator, that's the way it was when I was on there, and we were stuck doing emergencies every year, because we can't, the assessor can't control what the school districts do, they can't.
I understand.
And even though it's, you know what's funny? When I was a legislator, even though it's absolutely imperative that they have this data in, they're so lackadaisical about it, it gets to you way too late. I understand your point though, but I understand, Legislator Truck, I understand your point that that you're signing something that says this is the way it's supposed to be done, and it's not actually being done that way, but then maybe this body has to fix it. I mean, that's really for another time, I think.
Yeah, no, I understood that, Fran, and again, the dichotomy I'm trying to point out is that we're being asked to do the school tax late, but we're being asked to do the consolidated tax too early, the warrants.
Yeah, only basically I'm told the reason for that is that it has something to do with the assessed valuation, because it has to be identical, they have to match. When the consolidated is actually done.
If we don't issue the consolidated tax warrant tomorrow, will it have any effect on the assessments going forward?
Well, I mean, you have to remember, okay, the assessed values are very important because they have to match. If they're not approved today, I mean, if you want different values, then don't approve it tonight. But if you want the same amounts, how to approve it tonight?
Right. Let's say truck also, I understand that that is that's required by our county charter, that they go out together.
No problem.
Are we correct in that?
No.
Well, council is telling us that, that that's the case.
We'll go on this
Unless
one.
we're reading a different chart.
We're reading the new one.
Legislator Schaefer, then Legislator Bino, Legislator Savage.
Just a quick point. If this is something, I'm guessing we're all going to agree with this. If this is something we can change in the administrative code for next year, if there's somehow we can remedy this, I think that we should absolutely do that. So we're avoiding things like this. To the extent we can make the difference, let's do what we can do. That's all. Now legislative by now, and then somebody else had a hand up.
To Legislator Schaefer's point, the administrative code already speaks to that. The administrative code states that the school districts are required to give us that information by the 15th day of August. So what we're failing to do is require that they be in compliance with our administrative code. So we have to, and I would state that that is the requirement of the Department of Assessment, that someone there needs to make sure that they are in compliance with our administrative code. And this is a state requirement, therefore, it doesn't matter who's straddling Nassau and Suffolk County border, they have a requirement to adhere to state law and to our administrative code and give us the information by August 15th.
So legislator, you're absolutely right, but what happens is there's probably no fines and there's no penalties involving this that I know of to get that the school districts get, unless the county wants to impose fines. No, let me just finish. Impose fines and penalties, then let's go to our school districts, who we all represent, and tell them, that we're gonna fine them if they don't get this data in. That's why we're in the predicament we are, because the school districts do things the way they wanna do it, and we let them do it.
So
That's the problem.
So let me just ask a question then. What are we currently doing to behoove them to be in compliance with our administrative code? Explain to me what we're currently doing.
That's what, we're in the predicament we're in because we've done the same thing.
Because we're not doing anything. Because we're not doing anything.
Well, unless we give them, I bet you that if this body passes fines against the school districts, you'll have them in by August 15th.
I don't know that we always
But they also have their own problems with putting this data together. That's why I'm sure some of them are late.
Excuse me, I don't know that we always have to go to a point where we're fining people. Sometimes it's just a function of educating them. I'm sorry, I need you.
No, you got it, I heard you.
I need you to hear me,
Yes,
okay?
I heard you say
Sometimes it's a
education.
function of educating people to say, this is the outcome. The outcome is that you've put this legislative body in a compromising predicament, and that this body has stated, moving forward, we will not do that. And that they will then, those 1 or 2 school districts who fail to come along and get it right, that they're gonna be left out in the cold. So I think sometimes they need to understand. I simply photocopy this part of the administrative code or embed it into a letter and tell them that this is what is required of them. And failure to comply is this act or that act. And I think you'll get some people to respond to that. I don't think we always have to find people.
As Director of Legislative Affairs, I'm going to speak to council for the majority and minority after this session and see if we can come up with a plan, okay?
Yeah,
I'm going to take it under my
Please.
wing to address this issue, and I will get back to everybody.
Thank
But
you.
I'll speak to both council on both sides, and we'll address this issue and see if we can come up with some kind of reasonable resolution. So, because I did this for 20 years when I was in the legislature, and you have a good point. Maybe it's not necessary if we could just get the school districts to comply.
Sometimes it's just education.
So
Thank you.
I'll take this under my wing and get back to you on it.
I appreciate that.
All right, okay.
Legislators Fuller.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Good afternoon, Jeff. How are you doing tonight? Good afternoon.
Good.
That's great.
How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Legislation.
Do these valuations reflect the property commonly known as Green Acres Mall as being on the tax roll or off the tax roll?
Green Acres,
Green Acres is under a pilot agreement, it is off the tax roll as is legally required.
So, as legally required, according to an agreement between the Industrial Development Agency of the Town of Hempstead and the Maestros Corporation, is that correct?
No, according to General Municipal Law, Section 18A, 874.
And which only applies if there's an agreement. Is there an agreement in place?
I believe that's in litigation right now.
Okay. Now, speaking of that litigation, can you provide us an update of that litigation?
Nassau County is not a party to that litigation.
But it affects our tax rolls. You must, of course, have an update on
No,
that.
it doesn't. It affected the tax rolls last year, and then again, under 18A, you can't have more than a 1% difference between classes. It affected the tax rolls partially last year. It will not affect them again this year, more than 1%.
I think undoubtedly it will affect the tax roll this year, especially if the Judge Driscoll in that matter, rules in favor of the corporation or in favor of the Industrial Development Agency. So I ask again, do you have any update as it relates to that litigation before Judge Driscoll?
Taxes in Valley Stream have been reduced on average $600, and we are not a party to the litigation, therefore I will not speak on hypotheticals on how a judge will rule. Because I think, as a lawyer, a lot of times the judge is going to rule one way, and I usually get slammed.
I understood. I can respect that.
Just being honest.
I can respect that. But as it relates to approving these tax rolls, it's important to note that there is litigation that, if it goes one way, it could have, a disproportionate impact upon, the residents of Valley Stream. And with respect to your last statement that it went down by $600, I talk every day to senior citizens and other people who live on fixed incomes, and they received a $1,000 tax increase, and they believe that if these tax rolls are not corrected, then they can receive another tax hit.
Well, the bills haven't gone out yet, so I don't know what they're referencing. Perhaps they're referencing prior years. But the data that I'm being told is that on average, they're being reduced $600. Green Acres is not going to affect the tax rolls this year.
Based on what authority?
Based on the fact that it's a pilot, and it's still a pilot, and it's currently a pilot, and they're making pilot payments.
What if the
And the school districts are utilizing the pilot payments.
What if the exemption is struck down in the court?
That's a hypothetical. I can't speak to that. I don't know what the judge will say in his decision, how he will implement it, if it will be retroactive, if it will be 2 years moving forward, if a new agreement will be reached. There's too many variables. It's impossible to speculate. I can give you 1,000 different answers, none of which may happen.
So it could affect the roll.
could, it could not. We may never hear about it again. There could be any number of 100 answers.
So your statement that it wouldn't affect the roll is incorrect?
I don't have a statement, but Green Acres? What do you mean? Green Acres is not going to affect the roll
You just
right
said
now,
that
as
the
it is right
litigation
now.
would not affect the tax
No,
rolls.
I said Green Acres right now, the pilot has not affected the roll. Nothing about the litigation. Green Acres right now is not on the tax roll because there is a pilot right now. It will not affect the rolls right now as a pilot. If the judge rules a certain way, I don't know what the judge is going to do.
A pilot that's in litigation.
Correct. And if I knew what the judge would do, and I could bet on that, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be a wealthy man.
Tell us, how would this ordinance affect the tax rolls considering that the case is still in litigation? I mean,
It doesn't. It affects it in the sense that if you don't pass it today, that you don't pass the school budget. That's how it affects it. Listen, Friday's my last day. I love coming before you people, but you gotta pass it today, okay? You're a pass-through, with all due respect. You don't have the authority unless you wanna vote down a school budget, we're talking about much ado about nothing. This is how it's been done for 40 years. Why is it an issue today? Because school districts are late, and it's the school districts.
it was an issue last year as well when residents in Valley Stream received a $1,000 increase in taxes on average. But I'm in possession of a letter that I distributed to my colleague, and I can have this letter, a copy of it sent out to you right now. It's a letter in which the superintendent of the Valley Stream School District number 30 addresses a member of this body, in which he says specifically, I quote, "Valley Stream School District 30 Board of Education has fulfilled its promise in returning any excess pilot funds to the residents of Valley Stream School District 30. We ask that you and the rest of the Nassau County Legislature do the same. When voting on the adjusted base proportions for Valley Stream Districts 13, 24, 30 in the fall, return the adjusted base proportion percentages to the 2015-2016 percentages. Would you, for the individual from the assessment department, Jeff, would you state that that is an appropriate solution to return this back to the adjusted base proportions to the 2015-2016 year? That is the year before that Valley Stream, that was the year before that the pilot was granted for Green Acres Mall, the $80 million pilot.
That is not a question for the Assessment Bureau, that's a legal question. And I believe that the answer has already been furnished to the legislature that the suggestion by the Valley Stream School District is incorrect and contrary to law.
Yeah, and if I may, just chime in here.
No, please, I'm not done with my questioning. I'm not done with my questioning, thank you. So just to be clear, that I appreciate your quick reference to a prior answer, but if you could just state that for the record now, would returning the adjusted base proportion to the previous year, 2015-2016, be a solution? That is the year before the $80 million tax break to the third most profitable mall corporation in this country was given. Is that a solution?
You don't have the authority to do it.
Well, that is the answer. There is no authority to do it, and it's frankly irrelevant to this particular matter that's before the legislature, which is the issuing of the ordinance that would allow the collection of school taxes for the coming year, which will in fact benefit the residents of Valley Stream by reducing on average their tax bill by $600.
But if they overpaid before, then they deserve that benefit. If you're saying that that would give them that benefit when they already overpaid last year by virtue of paying for a tax break for a mall and an agreement that still hasn't yet been decided by a court, wouldn't that be the appropriate solution?
That's not what's before you, legislator. What's before you is the taxes for the upcoming school year, and they need to be passed today. What you're asking is a rhetorical question that really does not have anything to do with this legislation.
I disagree respectfully. I continue in the letter. The letter reads also, this would be the percentages before the Green Acres Mall pilot was implemented, along with this bad deal. The shift in the burden of taxes from Class 4 commercial to Class 1 homeowners in 2016-2017 was a major contributor to the increase in taxes for homeowners in each district. Can you at least chime in on whether there was a shift in the burden of taxes from class 4 to class 1?
That's irrelevant at this point. The matter before the legislature is passing the taxes for the coming school year.
But it's also the adjusted base proportions for this year. Do the adjusted base proportions of this year, as in last year, shift the burden from class 4 to class 1?
With respect, before this went up for emergency, we were questioned as to the validity in the charter and the legality of putting on an emergency based on the 10 days. Now, we're not so concerned about the law, but I'm telling you that you cannot put this back on the roll and you cannot change the valuation because it's contrary to the law, but now you're looking for solutions that are contrary to the law.
I'm asking you for the details of these roles, and that will determine to me at least whether this is satisfactory to pass the emergency.
It's irrelevant to the analysis of whether this should be passed.
I have a right as a duly elected legislator to ask you how these valuations came to be and what figures were used in coming to these numbers.
A pilot agreement.
A pilot agreement that shifted the burden of taxes from class 4 to class 1, and I'm asking you simply whether these tax rolls, whether these tax rolls for this year duplicates the same effect as we saw last year.
The answer is no.
I continue in the letter. The Nassau County Legislature is responsible for voting and approving the tax of the Nassau County's adjusted base proportions every year. We ask that you and your colleagues take responsibility in determining the adjusted base proportions.
Let me ask you a question. Anytime something goes before this body, you ask for documentation and backup, rightfully so. Do you have any documentation or backup, or just a letter from them waxing poetically as to the results? What did they base their analysis on? What are their numbers? What are their figures? What documentation did they provide that says that what they said in the letter is accurate and not, quite frankly, just a shell game to hide their poor accounting processes?
I'm asking you the same questions, whether the assessment department and whether those same practices are adopted by your agency. These are the same questions I'm asking of you. Can the individual from the assessment department at least chime in on here? Because he's counsel, but you're in the assessment department. Can you at least explain what happened in the previous year with respect to the shift in the burden between class 4 and class 1, and whether these tax rolls do the same?
The shift is because of the pilot, period.
So it's because of the pilot, or is it because of the school district? You see, because he and other people are placing blame on School District 30, but now you're saying that it's because of the pilot. Who's responsible, Mr. Jeff? What happened, and please give me the assurance that that is not going to happen again this year.
I'll say one thing at this point. It's in litigation. What the courts fight it out then.
Madam Presiding Officer, go ahead.
I'm not done with my question.
I think you are.
I'm not done with my question. No.
Hold on.
Yeah, I think you're done.
I'm done.
All right, just trying to
Stay
badger.
on
I will
the
stay
issue.
with the
It's
issue.
not the pilot program, okay? Let's go.
So can you please, in reviewing 371-17, can you please show me the burden, the classification for on class 4, please? The evaluation of class 4. Jeff, can you please point to that on what page?
I don't think we understand what your question is.
The valuation for class 4 last year compared to this year. I just want to make sure that that the numbers are different.
What do you want? The adjusted base proportion?
Yes. Your counsel stated that there will be no effect, so I want to see at least that the numbers for class...
No effect on the Green Acres pilot.
I want to see at least the valuation for the class 4 is different from last year and this year.
Remember something, last year Green Acres, or the school board
2015,
made
2016.
an over adjustment, under adjustment on the levy for the pilot. This year they know what the number is, it's the same, so there shouldn't be.
A representative from the assessment department, your colleague just stated that it was the pilot, but now you're saying that it was the school district. So I just want to learn from the assessment department, please.
It's numbers.
What valuation and what number for class 4 compared to last year to this year? Excuse me?
The adjusted base proportions from 2016 to 2017 increased significantly. Place one, that's why the tax rates went up. 2017 to 18 did not go up much.
Okay. Did not go up by how much did it go up by?
Okay. Well, for example, 17, 18.
And what page are you looking at?
Went up about 1%.
Can you please point to what page you're looking at, please?
It's page 7 of the adjusted base proportion.
Okay. And compared to the previous year where the pilot did not exist, what difference do we have?
Now, 16, 17, from 16 to 17, I don't have the figures in front of me. We're talking really for the 17 to 18 year. We're not talking or I didn't think that questions would relate to, let's say, a previous year. Therefore, I didn't bring figures with me.
Because that issue is not before the ledge today.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Legislator Gaylor.
Thank you, Madam
And then
President.
Legislator.
So what my colleague was referring to was a letter that Dr. Sterling from School District 30 had written me back on August 21st. And for the most part, Legislator Szilagyi has read most of the letter into the record. What the legislator fails to recognize, maybe because he's not aware of, or just purposely didn't, is that there's been an exchange of letters since then regarding the same subject matter between School District 30 and myself. In fact, on September 11th, after being informed by the county attorney's office, I informed the school district that the Nassau County does not have the legal authority to remedy the issue, as he suggested in his letter, without the help of New York State. Pilot agreements are constructs of New York State law, as are the standards by which Nassau County must determine adjusted base proportions. While the county legislature does indeed levy taxes on behalf of the school district, it has no discretion in the application of Section 1803 of Article 18 of the Real Property Tax Law. In other words, none of the standards that Dr. Sterling has suggested in the August 21st letter would allow Nassau County to do as he suggested. The RPTL does not give the county legislature discretion to unilaterally shift allocations to account for assessed value lost to IDA exemptions in connection with pilot programs and pilot agreements. As such, we're confined as the legislature to the formula as provided by state law. If there's a solution to be had, it requires the intervention of New York State. One possible solution is for the state to grant Nassau County the authority to adjust the proportions as Dr. Sterling had proposed. Another would be to allow Nassau County the ability to treat pilots as taxes. But neither option can be accomplished by Nassau County under existing New York State law. Those laws can and should be changed for the benefit of our residents. I've proposed legislation. We've had a home rule request that went up to the state. In fact, it lies with Legislator Szilagyi's sister, the assemblywoman from this district, to push this forward. Until she takes the next step, nothing is going to happen. Nothing that is proposed by Dr. Sterling in his previous letters is going to happen. Now, in response to my September 11th, Dr. Sterling was kind enough to write back just recently on September 15th. he acknowledges that state legislative changes are required and urges elected officials at the state level to pursue the legislative priorities which would give greater transparency from the IDAs and require full disclosure of impact of pilot agreements on the public. In addition, in an August 21st letter, Dr. Sterling informs me that the Valley Stream School District 30 Board of Education adopted its tax levy. The total amount was $19 million and change. This total includes a reduction of $1,858,000 of Valley Stream District's allowable tax levy within the parameters of New York State law. It includes the pilot estimate based on receiving all pilot payments from the Green Acres Mall. The reduction of the $1.8 million includes all excess pilot funds received by Valley Stream in June of 2017. This method is the current and only legal method in returning money to the taxpayers. So it's quite clear that this body does not have the authority unless the state gives us this authority, either in the form of new legislation or changes that they could enact based even on another bill that Assemblyman Kern has introduced to include pilots as though they were taxes, because that wording is not in the existing state legislation. But again, both Assemblyman Kern's legislation that he introduced can't move until the majority member, which is Assemblywoman Szilagyi from the Valley Stream area, makes this a priority. Once she makes it a priority, then the minority assemblyman can sign on to the bill, and this can pass over to the Senate, where Senator Kaminsky, who represents this area, can take a more active role than he has to get this problem resolved. So we're kind of hamstrung here in Nassau County until our state officials take the proper and necessary steps. That's all I really have to say. Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer.
Now for you, Legislator Georgie.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Lorna. You know, I actually appreciate what Legislator Gaylord just said, because that was sort of my question. We're dealing with something in the North Shore area regarding this. The class shares are established in this ordinance, are calculated in accordance with state law, which is basically what Legislator Gaylord said. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the county cannot mandate the allocation of pre-tax burden to like target utility companies, for instance, correct?
Right, because the LIPA, in other words, is built separately.
I'm sorry,
Well, you're talking LIPA, correct?
No, that's not what I'm saying is the county can't mandate the allocation of the pre-tax burden to the utilities. We just said the state has to do that.
Comes from the state.
All right, and the towns and the schools also cannot target utilities, is that correct?
No, correct.
So the only entity that can do this is the state.
Correct.
Did you hear that, Don?
Yes.
Because that was one of the reasons for the PSC, saying that that was a decision they made. So thank you for putting that on the record, and thank you, Legislator Gaylord.
Okay, Minority Leader, go ahead.
Just to wrap up, I don't have any more questions for today. I think the questions have been very extensive already. I just want to say, for the record, obviously, no one here wants to see the school districts be hurt in this process. Obviously, I think based off of the debate and discussion for the last half an hour, 45 minutes, even longer, it seems that this process and this system is flawed, and we are encouraging all parties involved to take a very aggressive approach to ensure that we're not at this spot this time next year, but we are prepared to vote for this emergency as well as for this item, because we do not want to see any of the school districts not have what they need, therefore jeopardizing and hurting taxpayers even to a greater deal in the future years.
Minority Leader. By the way, we really did not establish the emergency. We had to vote on establishing, okay? All those in favor of establishing the emergencies for the items that I didn't call, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Just one more question, please, just one more question.
Oh, you're gonna get thick. Listen, Harriet, you'll ask it right after the emergency. We just want to get the emergency. We want to establish the emergency. We're talking about items that we didn't even establish the emergency for. So let's do that. All those in favor of establishing the emergency, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now for the items.
Yeah, I oppose.
You vote, Harriet voted no. So we have, okay, we have 10 and 6, no, 10 and 2. No, I don't know where 10.
15 and 1. 15-1.
5?
15, yes.
15 and 1, okay. Oh, he had to go. All right. So the emergency is established by a vote of 15 to 1. Got it? Yep. Now, we have to go through. I'm going to ask Minority Leader, I'm going to ask, listen, I'm asking if we could waive the reading on the emergencies, of the items.
I don't see any problem.
Huh?
I do not see any problem.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're not going to read the items. Now,
You gotta call
we're going to call. What?
I just wanted to ask for legislative Gaylord, can you provide your letter as part of the record? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Now for each of these items, and if there are any further questions, okay, someone ask the question.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer, thank you. Just to Jeff again, just compared to last year, are the adjusted base proportions more or less for the Valley Stream School District 30?
Well, the adjusted base proportions is about 1% higher this year. So from 17 to 18, it's about 1% higher.
Okay, and okay, that's all, just one question, thank you.
Which is normal, okay, by state law.
Thank you.
I'm now going to call all of the items. And if you have any further questions after I call all of those items, feel free to do so. Now for item 364, 365, 366. Okay. 371, 372, and I believe it's 373. All right, now. Moved by legislator Capel, second by legislator Walker. Aye. Any questions on those items that I just called? Are we okay? I think we are. At this point, I think we keep the items to, whatever. I don't know if there's anybody here who wants to talk about them at this point, but if there are none. You got a question, Meredith? Please join us. I know you like it here.
On this issue.
I know you love it here.
Hey, I have to love it for the amount of money that I have to pay.
I have to tell you, I like your dress.
Thank you, appreciate that. Yes, I do have some questions and some concerns because all of you, seem to select that pilot process quite a bit to the detriment of taxpayers. So I'm just concerned about the lack of adjustments to these pilots, but when it comes down to the budget season that we're currently in, you don't have a problem raising fees and surcharges. And I also just find it interesting that this was the administration of not raising property taxes, but I guess since it's kind of a lamed up season, it doesn't matter that there's that hint of property taxes being raised in this last budget. So when you're talking about these school budgets, and my question has to do with the fact that getting information in September when most of the school budgets are passed in May, I'm just concerned as to why we are continuing to operate this way, as Legislator Drucker and Legislator Birnbaum brought up earlier with regard to the fact that in essence you are voting to violate certain laws that you have been obligated to support. So if you could possibly, you know, unless I'll just have to enlighten myself, I just find it interesting that you make statements, people stand here and they make statements that we're at the mercy of the school districts. You all are not at the mercy of the school districts. The taxpayers who don't have any voice in the decisions that are being made here are at the mercy of the school districts. And when you have questions that need to be answered, why isn't the assessor here? Why don't you have the people or the individuals here who have the institutional knowledge who can give you the best answers to address the questions that you all need to be asking, and the majority of you do not? But you say when you're on the campaign trail that you are representing our interests. And last question, because again, I don't have the facts in front of me, but looking at Newsday from, I believe, the 15th, about this consolidation plan that's set, does that have any connection to this consolidation tax? Because I also found it interesting that the whole idea behind Governor Cuomo's initiative was to devise plans to eliminate duplicative services, coordinate purchases, and reduce back office costs to reduce property taxes. So how is Nassau's plan going to reduce property taxes? I mean, actual reduction of property taxes that the taxpayer will actually see on their tax rolls, not somebody standing in front of Newsday, News 12, and FiOS claiming that you're reducing taxes, because this proposed $130 million savings, even in this article, will not be realized possibly until 2019. And we know how Nassau County doesn't realize any cost savings. Look at your history. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now for the items. All those in favor of the items that were called, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, what do I have? 15? 15-1. Okay, now, a motion to adjourn. Moved by legislator Rhodes, second by legislator Kenzie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.